Hi, guys. Welcome to our podcast, A Court of Heaven and Hell. I'm Lauren, aka Heaven.
And I'm Ellie. I'm also known as Hel.
We are a book podcast based on the romance novels by Sarah J. Maas, A Court of Thorns and Roses, Throne of Glass, and Crescent City. We are currently found on most major podcast platforms, but if you don't see your favorite, let us know in the comments, DM us, send us an email, and we will do our best to get on there. And our video version will also be available on YouTube. I do want to go ahead and give a quick little content warning. Please look at our show notes below. We will have our particular warnings in there, trigger warnings and content warnings, but we are an explicit podcast and we do use adult language. So just be aware of that. And then also, if you guys could please like, comment, subscribe. If you're listening on podcast platforms, rate and review. All of these things are going to help us grow and help us, take this thing a little bit further. We really appreciate it.
Yay! Okay, so this episode is gonna finally be covering House of Flame and Shadow.
Hey,
Oh my
hey. Isn't
gosh,
it beautiful?
it's so
Ah.
pretty. If you're just listening and not watching the video, I'm holding up the book. It's so pretty, you guys. I
It's
also
literally
love
gorgeous.
it without like the dust jacket on. I'm obsessed. But
Yeah, it's literally
it's so pretty.
gorgeous.
I'm obsessed. Like the little like iridescent. Anyway, this book
Yeah.
is gorgeous, but
Black and gold is like one of my favorite color
yes.
combinations.
When I go ahead and give y'all a quick spoiler warning, if you have not read all of the previous books in the Maasverse, including Throne of Glass and ACOTAR, please save this video and come back when you're caught up to avoid the major spoilers. This first part of this episode will be Crescent City 3 spoiler free, and we will give you guys a major warning when we switch to our spoiler inclusive review. Okay. So right now we're just doing spoiler free just for this book. So we went to a midnight release. It was
Oh,
so fun.
it really was. I had such a good time.
It was really fun. We decided to be extra and we dressed up.
Yeah, go look at the pictures on our Instagram.
Yeah, it was really fun. Lauren went as Raisan, kind of like a business Raisan. It was a sleigh. And then I went as Nesta. It was really fun. And like we were a little bit nervous that nobody else was gonna be dressed up. There actually was a lot of people dressed up. It was really cool.
Yeah, they have some really fun activities like trivia, making bracelets, a scavenger hunt. It was just fun. We got to meet so many people. There was people dressed
Mhm.
up. My favorite was the guy in the otter, in the
Same.
otter suit. I fucking loved him. Yeah, but it was just like such a cool experience. It's been a really long time since I've been to like midnight release that was that big. Like we did go to the Iron Flame midnight release. It
Hmm.
was a little bit of a smaller scale, I would say,
Yeah.
but this one was just so much fun. And I literally just, it makes me so excited for the upcoming like books and like this being a thing again, the midnight releases.
Yeah, it was super fun. We got to meet a lot of people. But yeah, if you haven't been to midnight release and you get to go to one, go to one.
Yeah.
It's fun. And like the vibe of when everyone's in line, we're about to get the book. It's just amazing. I
It was
the
so
second
fun.
the second we got this book, we literally ran.
We took a picture and did.
We were like,
Okay.
bye, good luck,
Like,
bitch.
like, I'll talk to you in 3 days.
Well, technically two. It only took us 2 days,
Yeah.
but
All right. Now that we're done fangirling over how much fun we had at the midnight release, I do just want to let you guys know that if you are in need of a refresher on either of the Crescent City books that came before this one, we do have episodes out now. And we do have a fun little theories episode if you haven't dived in yet and you're kind of curious about what we thought might happen in this. All right. If you are interested in hearing us talk about her other books, follow us for future videos, and we will be reviewing and theorizing those series, starting with ACOTAR. All right, guys, now it's time to dive into our review of Crescent City 3.
so right now this is going to be our spoiler-free section. We're just going to give quick overall opinions in our review. So without
Yeah.
any spoilers, Lauren, what is your review?
Okay, so I loved this book. All right. I really did. I wouldn't say by any means it was perfect. It's actually not what I expected, a lot of it.
Me either.
Like it's really not where I thought this story was going. I mean, in a way it is, but in a way it's a lot different than I kind of anticipated it to be. But I will say that overall, my opinion is that it was a great book. It was a great kind of final part to Bryce's main story. And I really appreciate what she did with this book, how this book made me feel, the emotions that it brought out of me. I was laughing, I was crying, I was, super happy at parts and super upset at parts. Like it was overall a very enjoyable experience for me. What about you?
Same. So overall, again, I really liked it. It wasn't perfect, like what Lauren said. It probably isn't my absolute favorite book in the series. I think Crescent City 1 is gonna stay my favorite in the series. That book was so
It's
good. Like
fine.
it was so good. Like it's kind of hard to top it, to be honest. I
I got
don't
nothing to say
know.
about Crescent City One.
That book was fucking amazing. Like
Such a good introduction to a world.
God,
The only thing that I could possibly say about the first Crescent City is that it starts off very info heavy. And if you're not
yeah.
used to books like that, it can definitely be a lot to dive into. But when the story takes off and you start to understand what's going on, it's so good.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know how I would rate it in terms of if it's my second favorite in this series or my third favorite. I think
Mhm.
it's maybe tied with Sky and Breath. There was some parts that I was like, okay, this is kind of dragging. Some of the side storylines weren't my absolute favorite.
Mhm.
But the main
Yeah.
plot I did like a lot. And yeah, it was good. It also made me feel a lot of emotions.
Yeah.
I'm already rereading it. I obviously loved it. I
Yeah.
loved it. It wasn't perfect, but it still made me really happy. Yeah, I'd probably give it like a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay. Yeah. I think that for me, it's without a doubt, personally, it's my second favorite in the series. Like I said, the first one is always going to live on in my heart as my favorite in this series. I'm assuming, I know that there's possibly more to come in the future, but for right now, hands down, my favorite. It's one of my favorite Sarah J. Maas books, period. I will say that I did enjoy this one more than House of Sky and Breath, especially on my reread of House and Sky and Breath. As much as there was some plot things in this book that weren't my favorite, I will say that it kept my interest a little bit more than some parts in House of Sky and Breath that for me like lagged on a little bit. Like I don't know. Both books, I think when you have so many characters that are, having storylines going on, it can tend to get a little bit like confusing and like you could be like jumping from the point of views like is definitely like a lot in both of these books, but I also like love that we do that because it's not just focusing on one person's story. We get so much information that way and so many different characters to love and stuff. So I don't know. I would say for me, this is my second favorite in the series, even though the ending of Sky and Breath will always go down in infamy as like the biggest cliffhanger of my life. And then I would say that I probably give this book, it's between a 4.5 and a 4.75 for me. When I tell you, like, I loved the way that this book ended out, like,
Yeah, the
part
ending was
one
great.
was great,
Hmm.
part two was good. It had some, like, phenomenal stuff happen, and then some
Hmm.
stuff that I was kind of like, hitting my head like okay, and then the last part though for me was just like this just I loved it. So right now I'm between, like I said, like a 4.5 and a 4.75, but that's just off of the vibe and how it made me feel. I'm by no means a literary critic who's going to be like the writing and the poetry and blah blah blah. No, I'm talking about how I felt when I was reading this book. So yeah, it's between there for me. It's not quite a perfect vibe, but it's close. All right, guys, we just finished our spoiler-free reviews. I hope you guys enjoyed those. If you have not read the book yet and you want to take our opinion into account, go read it now and then come back and let's talk about it in this next portion, okay? So just so you guys know, to be clear, the spoilers for Crescent City 3 start now. Please leave if you do not want spoilers for Crescent City 3. Okay. I just want to be so clear because I don't want to ruin anything for anybody. So giving y'all
Right.
plenty of time to exit the chat and come back later. We wanna have you. We want to hang out with you, but just not until you've read the book. Okay. All right.
Yes. I also want to say again, really quick, that this will include spoilers for every single Sarah J. Maas book because we
Yeah.
will be talking about
Mm-hmm.
every single Sarah J. Maas book.
1000%. All of it's getting brought, all of it's on the table, all of it matters to this story. So, spoilers for
Mhm.
all of it. If you don't care, then hang out with us, But if you do care and you don't want us to spoil anything from any of the other books, we'll see you in the next one.
Yes. Okay. I think it's safe. I think it's safe.
All right, it's safe. We're safe.
Okay, we could talk about it. Oh my gosh, we could talk about it.
Let's start from the beginning. Obviously, this is not going to be perfectly part by part because we
Just
don't have
talking.
it down. Yeah, we don't have it. This is what happens here. I kind of know where the first part ends
Hmm.
and I kind of know where the second part ends, but it's definitely not going to be part by part.
So in part one, we get a big portion of the crossover. How did you feel about it?
I really liked it in the beginning, if I'm being 100% honest. I like that interaction between all of them. I loved it. I thought that was kind of exactly how it would go down in that situation.
That's
This
true.
chick shows up, you don't know who she is. You could tell that she's Fae, but also she's half human, so she's kind of not going to be the same as like the type of fae as them, especially people that can like smell and sense things like that. She's talking about being from another world and being under attack, and you can't understand the thing that she's saying. Even when they're doing the interrogation and she shows them kind of like, the things that are happening on her planet. This is some shit these people have never even heard of before. Imagine if I went back in time to like fucking the 1800s, which I would never do because but and I went back to the 1800s and literally was like, oh, let me tell you about cell phones and computers and guns and all this crazy shit that we have, in the future. I mean, they had guns back then, but not the kind of guns that we have now.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know how else would they react in that situation. So I did like that. I will say the one thing that kind of like I didn't love about that first like part with the Akatar crossover was the whole like magic beam thing. I don't know. It was just kind of like it was a little bit like okay, like I mean I get it. They had to find a way to communicate with her
Right.
somehow. So like it kind of makes sense. But I'm just like, why are we? What? I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to harp on that too long. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I was just kind of like, okay, this is an interesting way to take care of this scenario. But yeah, I enjoyed the whole first part of that Akatar crossover.
With what you were saying about the Akatar characters reacting how you thought they were, I really enjoyed when we got the scene with, or the scenes really, with Nesta, Asriel, and Bryce. I really enjoyed their banter because it literally was how their characters would probably interact. I really enjoyed that
Yeah.
part. I enjoyed like the us having a Midgard worm again, all the
Mm-hmm.
fucking sudden. And yeah, it definitely was, it was like mysterious. So I was like, I don't really know where they're at, but I was assuming they're probably going to the prison,
Yeah.
which they ended up going to the prison. But
Yeah.
yeah, we learned a lot in that whole thing. But it
Yeah.
was such an info dump. I am doing a reread right now, and I need to reread a lot of those parts because I was like,
I literally highlighted every single thing where she was telling the story. So when I go back and read it, I can read it all her story as one thing instead of in parts. It was split up because
who
like the
whose story is Celine? Okay.
Celine,
Celine, yeah,
yeah,
it was
because
a
like
lot.
literally I mean, I understand it, especially because like I've already reread it,
Hmm.
but it was a lot of information, and then there was other scenes put into the middle of the so it was like you're sitting here and you're getting all this information, and then all of a sudden you're with Rune and Hunt, and then you come back, and then you're getting this information, and then all of a sudden it cuts to Lydia, and then you come back, and it's more and more information, and then it's like okay, we're cutting to this. I did appreciate being able to just sit there and like read what actually happened, what went down without all the breaks and this stuff in between. I will say that.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
I did. So with that part, I don't know. The journey to the prison was good. It was good. It wasn't my favorite part of the book by any means. I don't know. I kind of felt like it went on a little too long, if I'm being 100%
I
honest.
feel that I was ready for the setting to be different.
Yeah, I feel like it was really good and it was a good thing that happened, but I do feel it took up a little bit more of the story time than I probably would have wanted. And then there was the teaser, which was kind of like, it was technically a teaser because they were in a messed up situation. But in my mind, too, I was just thinking, come on, Bryce. Like you said, a human girl took on this worm and was able to kill it. You think that this chick that you have literally seen do some crazy shit, and this man who is clearly powerful, has wings, has like, they can't handle this worm? You went back to save them? Like, girl. You're on a mission. You got to save your people. Your mate is in a fucking dungeon being tortured right now. Every second fucking counts. Why? I mean, I don't know. It was the right thing to do. It was the good thing to do. But I was just like, if that had been me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, y'all are on your own. Y'all are on your own. I got shit to do. I got shit to take care of. Y'all were keeping me prisoner. It's not like you had me up in some 5-star hotel and I ran away from you. No, you were keeping me prisoner. You tricked me when we got down here. You lied to me about it just being me and you when we first got in this tunnel. I found out that Azriel was here the whole time. Y'all have not been being straightforward with me. Like, I have shit to take care of. I gotta go.
Yes, but I will say, I think the only reason, or not the only reason, but I think, well, obviously, Bryce going back to help them does show a lot about her character and stuff, even though she was like deuces at first, and then she was, oh, I fucked up, I gotta go back. But I will say, if we didn't get that scene, she wouldn't have known about the mask, which comes in such a big part later. So maybe
That is
that's
a
why I
really
was,
good point.
because
I mean,
then,
I think, sorry, but you're
no,
right. I
I was
do
just
think
gonna
that it's
say I
Bryce's
loved it.
character to go back.
Right.
Yeah,
It is
so
for
you're right
sure.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I wouldn't have. I'm sorry. I
No,
wouldn't
yeah, they were
have.
literally fine.
They're just waiting for her to come back, like, haha, you thought you got us. Like,
Yeah.
no.
You know, one thing that happened during that scene that wasn't really explained later on, and I think it might come up later in future books, is when Nessa was using her silver flames on the worm, it absorbed it.
Hmm?
Why did the worm absorb her power? And then Bryce was questioning if that power died with the worm or if it came back to Nesta, which is interesting. So I was just
That
like,
is
that's
interesting.
because we
Because
know also that she did give some of her power to the cauldron, obviously, in Silver Flames. And I don't know if that's the reason why she had a hard time taking off the mask. Maybe.
oh, you mean she gave it back? Yeah.
Yeah, she still has, I guess we got a confirmation she still has most of her power, but she
I
maybe
think
doesn't have as much as she used to, but she seems like she knows how to handle it a lot better.
right. I don't know if she has most of her power. I think that one thing that Sarah J. Maas really didn't ever touch on was exactly how powerful Nesta was when
Yeah,
she
that is
had the whole
true.
power of the cauldron because she was so afraid to use the magic. I don't think we really realized exactly how powerful she was. I do think she gave back most of her power to the cauldron because at the end of Silver Flames, it very clearly says she gave it all back except for the mother who stopped and let her keep this little part. So I definitely think it's clear to me that she does obviously still have powers and she still does have her magic from the cauldron. But I don't know if she were to try to use the whole dread trove again, if she would be able to like survive something like that, as
Mhm.
far as like having like a majority of her power. But she's still obviously very powerful and like she still controls the dread trove. So who knows? Who knows really? But
I don't
that is
know.
kind of a little bit, I wouldn't say it's an oversight, but it is just like a very interesting thing that like Sarah J. Maas has not really told us yet, is like exactly how powerful she was and how powerful she is now. I think we
Yeah,
just kind of have to assume.
that's with like so many characters though, because I mean, we still don't really know. Like, we know that Feyre and Rysand are extremely powerful, but we haven't seen it to the full extent.
Yeah.
I want to see it, please.
I think we got a pretty freaking good idea about Rhysand and Akawar about
Right.
when he in that final war. I mean, he's obviously fucking powerful. One of the first things that people say every time they meet him is just like what it's like to be in his presence, like how powerful he is. So I think for him, it's pretty clear, but I do think she's been pretty coy about exactly how powerful Feyre is. We haven't really gotten to see her use a lot of the magic and a lot of the powers that she has, that we know she
Yeah.
has because of Akamoth and Akawar. So I need a straight up in-game style scene in one of these books where on your left cap and everybody just comes out and starts using their powers and all the girls are over here doing shit and all the guys are over here doing shit. I need that moment to
I need it
happen in
so
the
bad.
Masters. I don't think we'll get it for at least
Well, a long
5 to 6
time.
books, but yeah, I need it to
It's
happen
gonna happen at some point. It better because I need that moment in my life.
before I
So
die, preferably.
yes, before I'm like old, can I please get this scene?
It's the way though that I will be 55 years old. Like, oh my God, it's the release.
Not you talking like you're 90 and you're like I'm
It's
55.
the release.
No, I don't even care if I'm like 90. If the last book of the series comes out and I'm 90, I'm dressing up. I'm going to a midnight release.
I'm gonna be Rose in that scene in the Titanic when she like goes back, just like me holding my Akatar books, like,
Oh, literally. I'm gonna be wearing like a Rune Dannon
oh,
shirt.
absolutely. I will never stop loving these books. So, but
Okay,
that is
so
hilarious.
speaking of Rune, there was a lot going on in the first part with him and Hunt and Baxian's situation.
Yeah,
I will say, I mean, obviously nothing, they're alive, they're good, but I was so scared. I was terrified and it ended up being fine. But I was like,
yeah.
the scene where Rune was like, bro, just bite off my hand. I was like, what is happening?
I
This
put the puke
book.
emoji. I'm sorry. every time, every time they cut back to this scene, and it's just like, and he bit a little bit more, and I was just like, bro, what is this? What is this cannibalism that's going on in this book right now?
Did
This
you
is not
see?
where I thought this shit was going, and also not that not judging you guys because you got to do what you got to do in these situations, but why did we
Yeah.
think this was going to work? Why was this the worth the risk of it possibly
And
not
it's
working?
it's the way right after his hand comes off, Pollux and all of them come in, they're just like,
Because they've been watching them.
what?
They waited. They literally sat there and watched you cannibalize this dude's hand. And then we're like, you thought that was going to work? Yeah, we let you do that because we're evil. But no, come on. Come on. And poor, oh my God, I felt so bad for them at this part. But I will say that I think that because I was so fucking scared about what was going to happen to them, even though so much messed up shit did happen to them, it never got as dark as I thought it was gonna get. Like, you know what I
Same.
mean?
I was
Like,
expecting the worst scenes I've ever read in my life.
yeah,
And I mean, they weren't great, but
no.
it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. I was really scared though, because when, I can't remember exactly how this scene went down, but when we learned that if Rigulus or Pollux was about to kill Rune the next day,
Yeah.
I was scared. I was
Yeah.
like,
Oh,
no, not
me
Rune.
too. As soon as the story was like, one of you is going to die, I need you to pick Athalar, and then he wouldn't pick, I was like, Rune's dead. I was like, Rune is gonna die because of course, I mean, Baxian would have been the easier person to kill off as far as for us. I love Baxian actually,
Oh my God,
but
I love him too.
yeah, but of those three, he clearly came into the story last. He hasn't had nearly as much time in the main.
Hmm.
So it would have been so easy for her to take him out. But it's gonna be Rune because they're not gonna kill Athalar because they need him. And Rune is gonna hurt Bryce the most. And so of course I was like, his ass is on the line. And I was just like, Lydia, 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 you have to do something, Lydia, you have to do something. And she
I was
did.
so stressed. She did. She came
And she
through.
did. She came
Oh my
through in a big
gosh.
way.
Really quick about Rune. Literally, I was screaming the first part of this book when like he wouldn't let her in. Just let her in. Let her in. I know you're mad at her. I know. I get it. She literally is like your fucking enemy, and you realize that she's Agent Daybright. Okay. Wow, crazy. But you need
Yeah.
to talk to her because she's the only person that can keep you out of this fucking situation. And she did. Her and Declan and Flynn and all of them came through and it worked out, but I was stressed.
Yeah, no. The first time I ever read that she was trying to talk to Rune and he was not letting her in, I was just, I understand, kid, that you're upset and that your fucking heart is broken, but use your fucking head.
It's it's the
Talk to
way
her.
that
He
he
could
was
be
like,
talking
you
to
know what?
everybody.
He's like, I'm not gonna let you in my mind, but I will cut off my hand to get out of the situation.
Not cut it off. Not cut
To
it
bite
off.
it. His
I will
friend
let
ripped it off.
Baxian bite my hand off in multiple bites. It's not like he just did one chomp and it was over. That scene was will look like
Anyway, his hand grew back, so it's fine.
well,
But
it's so funny. I saw the funniest meme about like, have you, I don't know if you've seen Deadpool, but when Deadpool gets his hand cut off and he starts growing his little hand back, I saw the funniest meme
oh
that
my
was like comparing
gosh.
that into Rune and it was just hilarious. But yeah, I will say that I definitely stressed over that scene a lot more and it was not nearly as bad as it could have been. I actually personally think Aylin's torture scene in Kingdom of Ash was much worse and harder to read
Yeah.
for me personally because she was just alone, which probably like added to it a lot because at least, I mean, not at least. It's fucked up that three people were getting tortured, but I just feel Aylin's torture was just so, it was down to mental torture, physical torture, all of that. Of all the torture scenes I've ever read, hers probably like got me the worst. So,
Hmm.
and then also she got saved too, but it just, I think knowing that like Lydia was there and involved gave me more hope that she was gonna find a way to like do something in the end to save them. But I don't know because Sarah did kind of mess us up with that one by saying that we should be worried about them. So
Oh, I was expecting the very worst. I was like, one of them's gonna die, and I'm gonna be distraught. But anyway,
yeah.
okay. So something else that is really big that we learned in part one, literally in the first chapter, was that the Asteri are the Daglin. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, it was, I don't know how to explain it. It's not just because my theory was wrong. I'm okay with my theory being wrong. If it
Hmm.
is wrong, I still have a little bit of hope for that. But it just seems a little like too on the money, a little too easy. Like these all powerful beings from this world, like this is like what they are. Does that also essentially mean that they're Vogue? Like I feel that was such a I don't know. Maybe they're not.
Uh,
Maybe they're not. Maybe that's not what her intention is. Maybe they're two different things, but I just feel I was hoping for a little bit more of a like twist when it came to that.
yeah, I agree. I think that reveal was not that exciting.
Especially because she just threw it in the first chapter too. It was no build up to
Right.
it. She just in the first chapter she was daggling, boom.
Yeah, I don't know, but it also there are still a lot of questions about the Asteri because we do learn in the chapters with Bryce and Nessa and Asriel that there was one underground this whole time, like just
Yeah,
asleep. And they do end up obviously killing her, or well, Nessa does, and she does bleed black blood. So there's questions. And I don't
yeah,
know if technically we're not sure what's going to happen in the future. We will probably talk more about that in like our theories video, I guess, for
yeah.
after this. But yeah, the Daglin was it's kind of a letdown, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm kind of just hoping that that's not where it ends, that
Me
we're going to find
too.
out a little bit more. But I do want to say that this whole scene, the whole scene of Bryce in the prison, I loved that scene. Not everything, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't love all the decisions that the characters made,
Hmm.
but I did love the scene in and of itself. I was not happy with Nesta and Asriel's reaction to the information that they got from Celine and how they kind of reacted to Bryce. But when Bryce reached into the prison and took that power out, and then she starts battling Nesta and Azriel, and then they go down beneath, and then she fucking decides to open up this case of this being. And I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? I love you, but what are you doing right now? You're too cocky if you think that that is what you should be, you know, the decision that you want to make. And just, I don't know, her, you know, questioning this theory and then like stabbing it with the truth teller and the Star Sword for the first time. We kind of get to see that, what happens when they're used in conjunction for the first time. I don't know. I personally, I really loved that scene. That was one of the first scenes in the book that I was, okay, this is
shit's getting real.
It's getting real. Exactly. Like shit's going down. This is like Bryce just got a power up. I loved that whole scene. So I do want to include that even though I was kind of over the cave scenes at that point, that part I loved. I love how that went down. And also kind of just curious about what's going to happen with the prison and all that now, you know, but that we can talk about that later. But
yeah. So sorry, my cat is in the video.
She's a cutie.
She's just like, hello, mother, I am hungry. Yeah, I was gonna be kind of sad if that was the only, or not if that was the only scene with ACOTAR characters, but if that was how it's gonna be left off, I was like, please tell me that's not how they get left off in this book. And, you know, thankfully it didn't. And I will say I have seen a lot of people on Reddit be kind of upset that there wasn't that much ACOTAR in this book. But again, this is a Crescent City book.
Yeah.
You kind of have to manage expectations in that way. Yeah, there's a few characters in it, but it's not about, I mean, it's not about ACOTAR. It's about Crescent City. But
yeah, I think that people got a little bit overhyped at the idea of it basically being the next ACOTAR book. It's not. It's Crescent City. It's Bryce's story. Still, it's very much, you know, Bryce and her friend's story. And it's just, I was happy with that because I love Crescent City so much and I love the characters in Crescent City so much. But I guess if you're an ACOTAR fan and you kind of were expecting it to be more ACOTAR driven, I could see being upset. You got to manage your expectations sometimes. It's not ACOTAR 6. That's coming. It's coming, and it will be great. But
it's confirmed,
you know,
it's coming.
I as like Bryce being like my favorite FMC, I was happy to get as much of her story as possible because like I needed to know what was going to happen with her. So yeah. But then that's pretty much part one. I mean, I don't remember.
Other things that happened were some side stuff. And like, I will say, like, Tharian and Ethan's side story wasn't really my favorite in this book. Tharian, I don't know. I don't want to say he was annoying, but I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Half the book, what are you doing, dude? I don't know. Same with Ethan, but Ethan, they both came through at the very end. But weren't really my favorite. Sorry, Sif is just like really up on here, but yeah, I don't know. Some of the side stories just weren't really great.
Yeah.
To me, but
yeah, I don't know how to explain. I wouldn't say that they weren't great. I do enjoy getting the information and hearing about what's going on with other people. But what I will say is their decision-making processes in the side stories had me be, what the hell are y'all doing? What the hell are y'all doing? What the hell are y'all doing? What is going on right now? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you question that? Why wouldn't you?
Literally, I was like, Ethan, why would you make a deal with the Viper Queen? Why?
I didn't have an issue.
Where it ended up.
I didn't have an issue 100%. Like, for me, I didn't have an issue with him making a deal with her. I had an issue with him doing it in the dumbest way possible.
Like, why wouldn't you ask who you're fighting?
Why would that not be the first question that comes out of your fucking mouth? Okay, I gotta fight somebody to free my friend. I'll do it. Who? Think of all the people that she has access to right now that you could end up having to fight. What if she had you fight himself? Like, she's a crazy bitch. What if she had been like, okay, you got to fight Tharian? Why would you not ask who you had to fight? Because it didn't end up being who I thought it was going to be. It didn't end up being Ariadne, but it ended up being a terrible fucking option. It's just you have all these people. She could have made you, well, I guess Flynn and Declan aren't under her control, but neither was Sigrid. But I don't know. it was just why would you not, why would you not use, you know how well, I know she's not Fae, but you know how these things work, you know how tricky they are with their words and
Hmm.
all, like why you have to be smarter than that, don't fall into the dumb jock stereotype, like Therian and him. I felt like we got a lot of dumb jock moments from them in
No,
this
we really
book.
did. It was, I'm gonna say it. We got a lot of alpha hole moments.
Yeah, some alpha hole shit going on, some alpha dumbass shit going on.
Okay, so basically part one kind of set up Bryce being back in Midgard. She uses a portal to go back to Midgard. She ends up with the Autumn King, and Hunt and Rune and Baxian. I don't remember if it happens in part one. Maybe it might be part two, but they're free. They're on their
Yeah,
way to the Ocean Queen ship.
right.
Um, Therian and Ethan escape the Viper Queen. Apparently, Ari, she gets sold to someone else. We don't know who that is still. That's another huge
I'm
question.
sorry. That was kind of a weird plot point because, like, even when it comes back
Right.
in the end, when she shows back up, it's kind of never,
Where are you?
where were you? Why are you back in the meat market? Where did you go?
Also, was it the meat market? I need to know more about what happened because they blew it up.
Well, no, they only set it on fire, but it was just a small part that got put out
Oh,
because
okay.
the Viper Queen was able to have people, like she
Uh,
had people that could put it out, basically.
okay.
They say that, but it was just interesting to me that the Viper Queen was, she's been like, she's going to work for somebody else, and then when Therian, we don't see her for two parts of the book, and then when she shows back up,
Literally.
she's back with the Viper Queen, and I'm like, where the hell were you? Like, what
Yeah.
happened? They don't
I
really
mean,
explain that.
that'll probably be the next Crescent City book. I'm assuming it's going to be about Therian
Yeah.
and her. Because I will say, I might be reading too much into this, but they did kind of have a little bit of like a flirty scene at the
Mhm.
front. So I'm like, okay, maybe
Yeah.
that'll be a thing, but we'll see.
Yeah, because I thought Flynn and her were going to end up together because of their flirtiness in the last book, and then she kind of, that didn't happen. She did,
I
so
don't
I'm
know.
I have no idea, but there's definitely some banter going on there. But I kind of
Right.
like him with Sathia too. I don't, I'm not mad at that. Like I felt she was
Hmm.
kind of good for him. She really kind of brought him back to being a person that I liked because I really liked
Yeah,
Therian in the earlier books. And
me
then about
too.
halfway through Sky and Breath, he started having me be like, all right, buddy, what are we doing here? And then at the beginning of this book, I was just like, if, bruh, what are you doing?
Yeah. What are you
Dumb decision after
doing?
dumb decision.
It's
And
the
then,
way that he pissed off so many different queens
bro, you're wanted
in
in
this
every
book,
territory, bruh.
everywhere. The
You're
Ocean
wanted in
Queen,
every state,
the
every
Quiver Queen,
borough.
the Viper Queen. I'm sure I'm missing someone.
Literally, if Bryce wasn't your friend, he probably would have pissed her off
You'd be
too.
fucked.
Like,
I mean,
he pissed off Morven. He was doing everything he could to piss off everybody that he could. And I was just like, yeah, that was hilarious to me. You go to the Ocean Queen for help and then you piss her off by joining Bryce and them on a Valen. And I don't know, he was definitely a lot in this book. And I in a lot, not necessarily in a bad way. I don't dislike Therian. I've seen a lot of Therian hate, but I don't dislike Therian. But yeah, he definitely
I
was
don't
doing the
dislike
most in this
him,
book.
but him in this book, it wasn't my favorite, I guess. But I do appreciate what he ended up doing in part three when he married what was her name again?
Sathia.
Sathia. I do appreciate. I mean, at first I was like, that's random as fuck. But I appreciate the reasoning behind it. I thought that was
Yeah.
sweet that he did it because if his sister was alive, he'd want someone to help her out in that situation as well. That's cute.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And I actually really liked her. Like she was shy at first, but ended up she being like kind of a baddie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I want to know more about her. I'm excited to see where that's going. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think she'll pop up in the House of Many Waters book for
For
sure.
sure.
But I also think that she ended up being kind of exactly what he needed at that point. Like even though
Mhm.
their marriage wasn't really one of love or anything like that, or
Right.
even knowing each other, like friendship, it just ended up being, she ended up being a personality of what she needed. And it was kind of hinted at a little bit because Flynn and Declan and Rune were basically talking about what a pain in the ass she is and how, she's got an attitude and all this stuff. And we ended up getting to see a little bit of that, but it ended up being good for him. He needed to kind of get checked a little bit.
He
So
did.
yeah, I really liked her character. She was a good addition. She was a good addition to
Yeah,
this.
I definitely liked her character.
And speaking of what's going on in Avalon at this point, I definitely want to touch on that whole situation. Probably one of my favorite scenes of the book, if not my favorite, definitely top three favorite scenes of the book happens in Avalon.
All I know is that I fucking hated Morven and the murder twins.
Bruh. Were they not the Ianthe and the fucking mind reading twins of this book? I can't remember the Daimati twins' names right now,
Oh my
but
gosh, yeah,
they
that is
were
such a good
the
point.
they were like
They were
they were
they were
that
icky.
trio. Literally, Morven. I knew I was not going to fuck with this dude from the prologue because of how he was
Right.
acting about Cormac. But when we finally got some actual screen time with him, and he was just like, bruh, we already know the Fae are outdated, and we already knew that Avalon was even further stuck in the past than everybody else. But I thought it was such a good metaphor when Bryce finally does free Avalon and everything comes to life. Well, I mean, we're the spoilers out, it doesn't matter. But when she kills Morven and like takes the power from underneath Avalon, and it's like everything just comes back to life. It was such a good metaphor to me because it's, yeah, get this fucking trash out of here and look, everything's happy and nice and good. And I cannot believe the
Mhm.
people. I mean, let me chill, because if you just came in and murdered the king and then took over, I might be a little bit hesitant too. But why are y'all acting
Yeah.
like this? She freed y'all, basically. This dude was a fucking tyrant. He was a tyrant
Yeah.
and she freed you. Why are y'all all second guessing her? But no, I don't know. I'll give them some leeway with that.
I thought about this so hard the last few days because I was okay, we know now that Throne of Glass is probably the shifter world. It just has me thinking that because it's mentioned a lot in Silver Flames that there are people who believe that worlds can overlap. Obviously, we do get a Throne of Glass reference in this book. We learned
Yeah.
that Lydia is literally from Brandon's line. Oh my gosh, that I literally was I
Yeah.
was I was so
Yeah.
excited.
That was a good reveal.
So that kind of does tell us though in this book that if Lydia is descendant of Brandon, then it's I guess not at the same time, but it still doesn't, I guess, debunk the overlapping worlds theory.
Yeah, that's how I feel about it. I feel like
Hmm.
it's not even, it's confirmed that the shifter world is the throne of glass world. That's confirmed. I also think that what isn't confirmed is that people seem to think that that means that like they can't be the same worlds, and I guess in that way they're not the same worlds. But when Gwen is explaining to Nesta in the library scene, she said some people believe that the worlds are literally, or that they're overlapping, basically, you said. So they could be different worlds, but the same worlds in different periods, but somehow happening at the same time. And that's why time is always such an interesting thing to play with when authors and writers, start to go down that path, because it's just so, it could mean so many things. But yeah, I definitely think that that possibility is not ruled out. We could find out that, I still think we could find out that people from Prithian are also descended from the Throne of Glass world.
Right, because there are shifters in Prithian.
And we
The
also could find
same.
out that somehow the Daglin are an iteration of the Vald. So like they could have come over at some point. Just because we haven't had that on paper doesn't mean, in my opinion, that it's not true yet. You know what I mean? So I
No,
still
I get
I
that.
I still kind of hold on to that theory that that is
Right.
possible.
Because when I first read that part, I was, oh man, that means that Aelin and her line was so long ago. But then I'm like, but wait, literally in Kingdom of Ash, she falls through and she sees Rysand and Farah when she was
Mm-hmm.
pregnant. So, well, she could have been falling through time. And we do know that like the 26th string on the harp is time.
Right.
So there is definitely, I don't know, there's a lot. I need to think about that like more because we did learn a little bit more, obviously, about all of this in this book. So it's just, okay, what does this mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna be Charlie in the
No,
drawing the connections.
seriously. I'm excited though to think about it because I'm like, okay, all right. But
Yeah, it's really fun.
yeah,
And then I guess kind of speaking about that, I do, well, okay, so I guess there's two things going on at this time that I really want to focus on. And that is that technically before they get to Avalon is when we get the reveal about Lydia and her twin sons. I know
yeah.
that you said when you first started reading it, you were kind of taken aback by that, kind of what the fuck wait, where the fuck did this come from? which I get. But like I said, I do think that it's not that outlandish in my opinion because we didn't know that much about Lydia. So I think that that's a thing that could have been hidden. I mean, like I said, if you had these secret children that you were so worried about protecting that you were willing to become a slave to the Asteri,
Mm-hmm.
basically, that you would be keeping them a secret too. It wouldn't have been something you were just sharing with everybody. So that didn't bother me that much. But they end up being pretty important when it comes to the reveal about Lydia's bloodline and who
It's,
she is.
dude, it's the way when I was reading like the reveal chapter, I always thought that Lydia was potentially a descendant of Aelin. I
Mm.
mean, it's just blonde hair, fire powers.
Fire
Okay.
power.
I'm like, all right, it's giving Aelin. And when we first met her sons, and her name is Bran and Ace, I didn't even think, oh, this could be named after Brannon. But then when that was revealed, I was like, how did I not notice?
Oh, what I was going to say was, I personally think that that also kind of confirms that that story, the princess story in House of Sky and Breath, was not about Lydia. It wasn't about Lydia.
Wait,
It was a,
really?
yeah, it wasn't about
What do you
Lydia.
think it was about?
I think it was
Aelin?
about Aelin or one of her ancestors because first of all, Lydia says when Rune asked her how she what where she heard that story, she said her mother told it to her. So it can't be about Lydia.
Okay.
So that also is why I'm almost curious because the connection to Aelin has to be through her father because she says that the stag that Brannon created stag shifters that had fire powers for his protection. So that's where the line of stag shifters comes from and that's her father's trait. But obviously her mother knew something by telling her that story. So
Hmm.
I don't know. I'm curious about that.
I need to think about it because I do have a lot of questions about that.
To me that's something that like has been on my mind a little bit because it's like obviously her dad is the connection to Aelin, but that story is the story her mother told her, so it can't be about her.
I mean, I
So
will say, literally, there's so many times in this book that she is referenced to being around an olive tree, and that was
mhm,
like part of the story, is that
yeah,
when whoever the story is about, when the female, I guess, gets shot from an arrow by this horrible prince when she's in hawk form, when her blood
mhm,
fell, that's where olive trees grew. And that's kind of a random tree. And so many times in the book, Lydia, she's running by an olive tree. Oh, she's walking by an olive tree. Like it gets mentioned. So okay,
mhm.
I do think there's more to it. And I'm so glad we discussed it a while ago in past videos because I'm like,
Yeah,
there's something there.
no, yeah, 100%. I think it has to do with Aelin or somebody in Aelin's bloodline because it's definitely not about Lydia herself. In my opinion, just based off of how could the mom be telling her a story about herself?
Well, also, Lydia doesn't shift into all those animals that was referenced in
Right.
the story
But
because
Aelin
she,
doesn't shift either. She shifts into a human.
right, but then she married Rowan, who is a shifter. So
He shifts into a
maybe,
hawk. Yeah. Yeah.
and
So
there
it
is
could
a
be,
hawk in the story. Okay,
yeah,
anyway.
it could be somebody further down the line that we haven't even heard.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to say that like I personally don't think that the story was about Lydia because of the information we got in this book. But yeah, I wanted to bring that up when you were talking about that. But yeah, the
Yeah.
the brand reveal was kind of like very interesting. And I will say that I didn't catch it either, but there was a point when we were getting the names of the kids where she kept calling him Aestion or like Actaeon, whatever his name is. And
Yeah.
I was, how are you gonna name one kid Actaeon and then name the other kid Bran?
You literally texted
Like,
me that and I still didn't pick up on it. I was, are you kidding me? How did I not pick up on this? And I love theorizing stuff, but I
yeah.
was so deep in this book that I wasn't even thinking. And
Yeah.
this book has taken over my fucking mind.
Yeah, definitely on the reread, there's probably going to be a lot of stuff. I was trying to go a little bit slower to catch a lot of that stuff because there
Hmm.
was so much going on in this book of just like I said, finding out that Lydia was not like that her mom is the one who told her the story. There's so many little details and things that like matter. The whole monologue when Celine is talking and just we get a lot of info dumps in this book.
And
So,
also a huge info dump is when Bryce and Hunt finally actually go to hell. And we
oh
learn
yeah.
we learn about
Yeah.
Hunt's
Yeah.
Parents.
Parents. Yeah. Okay. I do want to talk about that. But first, real quick, because we have gotten so far away from it and I want to finish it. I want to talk about when they're in the cave and they go down to the thing or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then the Autumn King, like, and Morven and her have their final showdown because that is one of my favorite scenes in the book. Obviously, Rune had been distracted at that point for a couple days by his girl Lydia finally getting to actually spend some time with her. And they kidnapped Declan and Flynn and showed just like what fucking pieces of shit they are. And they follow Bryce down to this, area where Peleus's tomb is, and she finds that whole, history of that where the other orb of power is too. I just love that scene only because I fucking hate the Autumn King. We kind of skipped over it too when Bryce first comes back to Midgard and she's spending that time with her dad and he's trying to like bargain with her for questions about what was going on in Prithian, and she tricks him there and locks him in the closet or whatever, and then he shows back up. I just want to talk about how happy I am that he's finally out of the fucking picture and that it was her and Rune that took him out, because that was just so poetic to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
ever since we found out how he tortured Rune when he was younger and how his tattoos were all like to cover that up, and just so sad him having to have a key in his room because his dad would lock him in Gorsian shackles so he couldn't heal and then torture him. Just, I don't know. Morven was a piece of shit, but the Autumn King was the real villain in that whole situation. And I'm just so happy that he's not in the fucking story anymore and that he got taken out in such an epic way.
Right. I'm just glad that in this book, all of the main characters, I guess, were able to take out the people they really wanted to. Like Ethan took out Sabine. Thank God.
Yeah.
I
No,
hated this bitch.
I did too.
Okay,
I
anyway.
kind of wish that Bryce had been there. That's just my opinion
That
because if Danica couldn't take her out, I wasn't mad that Ethan
yeah,
did it because she needed to go.
she needed to go. The astronomer also died,
Bye.
thankfully. Yeah, there was a lot of people that finally
Yeah.
got what was coming for them, and it was
The,
great. I was really sad that the prime apparent died, but I mean it doesn't surprise me that that happened. But oh my gosh, wait, okay.
that was so sad.
When he was like, Ethan, I'm making you my heir, and then Sabine was, and she kills him, and then anyway, they get into a fight, her and Ethan, and like, she dies. And that scene when he kills her, and he could have sworn that he heard a wolf howling from the bone quarter.
Mm. Yeah, that definitely, and that comes back into play
Gosh, it
actually.
does.
But that whole scene was so much because I was in the like tech and I was just text or typing. I guess we were using this buddy read thing, and I typed and I was like, oh my God, I love the prime. He's so sweet. I'm so happy that his character. And then literally on the next line, I was like, oh my God, he's dead. Holy shit. I was just talking about how much I love this guy and how sweet it is, how I love this scene. And then immediately I was like, oh shit, he's not here anymore. That scene happened so fast. And I wasn't surprised in the slightest that that's how Sabine like handled it or that's what she did.
Oh yeah.
But it was just the way that it happened so fucking fast. 1 second I was talking about how like sweet and how much I loved him. And then the next second he was just fucking dead. I was like, holy shit. But yeah, Ethan did his thing there. And him and Perry are so cute.
Oh my gosh. I
Yeah, I
wonder
think
what's
that that
gonna
might go
happen.
somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true, actually. I never really
Yeah.
thought about that, but yeah, that's true.
Oh, I
Hmm.
definitely
It
feel the
would make
vibes.
sense.
Yeah,
It
I
would
feel the
make
vibes.
sense.
She saved him in the last book when his
Right.
sister and all them wanted to, not even
Because
wanted to, when they
she's
killed
Emil's
him.
sister, or Emil,
Amelie.
Amelie, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're close. She's Amelie's little sister, and she saved Ethan even when she knew it was putting herself in danger.
Hmm.
But the vibes I got from them in this book was definitely like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I see where this is cute. This is cute.
Yeah.
But okay, if you want to go back to Hunt real quick, because I know I did
Oh
distract from there
yeah.
to talk
Okay.
about,
No, you're
yeah.
good. Okay, so the whole scene with Hunt, Bryce, and Apollyon and Adis, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. But at first I was like, okay, it makes sense if Apollyon's his dad, but then we learned that actually technically he was bred by Thanatos and Apollyon, right?
A
It's
little
kind of
complicated.
confusing.
What happened is the scientist that worked for the Asteri, who was working on Project Thur, is
Is his
he
actual birth
found
dad.
out he found out that Hel was good basically and that the Assyri were bad, and so he started working with Apollyon and Thanatos, I don't know his name, but the one with the T. He starts working with them about to try to help, create these a being that could take on an Asteri. And they
Mm-hmm.
create the Thunderbirds and they end up getting wiped off the planet. And then because they had this scientist in their pocket, they were able to give a little bit of their power, their hellfire to the scientist, who then basically inseminated it into his partner, who was Hunt's mom. And so they have a baby the regular way, and
Mm-hmm.
he is the dad, but he was still able to take the hellfire from Apollyon and Thanatos and use it to put into Hunt using some science thing. And that's why when Rigelus was talking about what Project Thur was in the last book, when he says it was the last time somebody got as close as Danica to figuring out the truth, it's because it was that scientist who was his dad. The name starts with an A, but I don't, it's a fetus or some shit like that. And then, yeah, he figured it out, but then they killed him. So
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah.
that shit
Anyway,
was
there was
complicated.
yeah, it was pretty complicated, but yeah, so we learned that about Hunt, and yeah, I'm excited that we got that answer because that was
Yeah.
definitely a huge question of who was Hunt's dad. Because at first we obviously didn't know, but we were theorizing a lot of different possibilities. But I'm just really glad we got that answer
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the answer I was expecting. And
either.
when I had a feeling that like the Project Thur had to do with who Hunt's dad is, it
Hmm.
just wasn't, I just wasn't expecting it to be some scientist who was in cahoots with Hell, basically. So it was an interesting twist there. So with the whole Hunt being a being of Hell, basically, we find out that his lightning can be used to do a lot of stuff. Not only is it not just lightning, it's actually hellfire, which is how Polion is able to be such a threat to the Asteri. But we also find out that his power can be used to resurrect people, which comes into play because they use it to resurrect the Harpy, which is such an interesting scene that leads to when we get our comeback from Akatar. And then we also find out that like his power is able to bind the serum together that Hypaxia creates in order to like take care of the parasite. And
Oh yeah, that's a big thing that we didn't even discuss.
yeah,
Basically, in the scene where Bryce, Ness, and Asriel are in Prithia and they're in the cave, Celine tells Bryce the reason why the Aesir are able to control y'all almost is because they put something in the water and it takes away some of your power. And so Hypaxia is on a mission to try to figure out how to make a serum to stop this parasite, and she does, thankfully. And when
yeah.
people start using it, they realize how powerful they
Woo!
are. Like doesn't Ethan have like some cold type of power or
Yeah,
something?
he's literally
There's a
got
way.
Wind's ice power. He can like control,
Mhm.
he can create snow, which he does. He uses it and he freezes the Under King. I was about to call him the Bone King.
Oh
He uses it
yeah.
and he
Oh
freezes
my
the Under
gosh.
King, and then Hypaxia is able to like basically shatter him. So now she takes over
Hmm.
the House of Flame and Shadow, which is such a good shout because she got ousted from the witches, and I was just happy that she was able to be in kind of a position of power, and also to just have somebody with such a good heart be in charge of what's going on with the people that pass now. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a good moment.
Oh my gosh, really quick about the bone quarter. I really, 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 really love that scene
No, me
with
too.
Connor, Connor coming to Ethan. And
Oh,
yeah, so Ethan like freezes the fucking bone quarter king and whatever, he
yeah.
died. But he Connor basically was like, we put all of our second light into this bullet for Bryce. You have to give it to her. And it was just so
I love that scene. First of all, it was just such a beautiful
it was
moment of
cute.
them sacrificing their afterlife, which we really find out is not what it's cracked up to be,
Right.
but to help save the literal day, and Ethan having to say goodbye to his brother for the final time. It's such a good scene, and it ends up being the fucking thing that saves the goddamn day. So like claps for Connor. I loved getting to see him a little bit more. There was a time, it's just so funny. It seems so long ago, but just like when I thought Connor was going to be somebody so in the story before he just got taken out like that. It was just good to get that little moment and get to see him and Ethan have their brotherly goodbye. And
Yeah, they
that whole
needed
scene
that
was so
closure.
cute.
It was cute.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah, and Hypaxia got her like her real official crown. So I'm so interested to see what she does now that she's in charge of the House in Flame and Shadow, because that's supposed to be like such a scary house and city head, and she's just the sweetest thing ever. So it's just so
Right.
interested to see where that.
Yeah, I do want to give a quick shout out to Jessica.
Oh
I
yeah,
love
yeah.
her. She really came through. I loved her because a lot of the scenes of the House of Flame and Shadow involve Jessica, obviously, because she's in it. But she's, I love her.
Yeah, it was really interesting to get her backstory and
Right. Because
like what she actually is, because she's just a human who was cursed by Apollyon to basically live forever
and she was
until.
basically a librarian at Parthos, right?
Yeah, she was one of the priestesses at the library of Parthos, and Apollyon thought she knew the secrets, and so he was, until you tell me what is really in these books, what their power truly is, you're cursed. And then she just kind of, I guess she became a witch at some point, and then she kind of like went away from the witches and then became a sorceress. I don't know, but it was really interesting to get her backstory and then to find out that her true form isn't this wise older woman that we've been seeing this whole time. It's actually this young girl who has these curls and is actually like super cute. I don't know. It was just really it was not what I was expecting. It was not something that I anticipated happening, but it was cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she comes back in later in a big way. So, in speaking about Hunt and his healing ability with the lightning or whatever, we also find out that the reason like Rigelus collected his lightning while they were being tortured was in order to resurrect the heartbeat, basically. So Bryce and them head up to Ninya, which this is kind of just to mention. Ember and Randall are with them. I love all the moments we get with Ember and Randall in this
I'm
book.
so glad they were in this book. I
Me
was a little bit
too.
nervous for a minute that they weren't going to show up, but thankfully they
Yeah.
did.
Thankfully, they show up and they have
Yeah.
such good moments. But we're
I
gonna
was
say
just
something.
gonna say, basically, at this part of the book, after Bryce has killed Morven and the Autumn King, she's trying to get all of her loved ones to Avalon because it's shielded from the Asteri, and that's why they're all kind of going to Avalon right now, all of her beloved people.
Right.
So
Yuri's there, Juniper, Cooper, then her parents come, but then her parents obviously go with her on this journey to Ninya.
they don't know
So,
why, but
yeah, they think they know why, but they don't really know why. But yeah, so then they get there and they kind of are noticing that all the people are gone, all the people that are supposed to be standing guard. This is too easy. And then they watch this video footage. They find this control room basically, and they watch this video footage and they see the fucking harpy taking out all the guards that were up there. And it's like, oh shit. So they rush off to go ahead and open this portal because they've got to get to hell. And so they can open the portal to Adis's armies and freaking Napoleon's armies and all that. And what does Bryce do when she opens the portal? Of course, she doesn't do what she says she's going to do, because Bryce doesn't ever do what she says she's going to do. She's giving major Aelin vibes in this book.
she really
So,
is.
so she opens the portal back to Akatar. And who's there? Your girl Nesta.
She's there. She's sitting. She's probably reading. I
She's
mean,
definitely reading, right?
no, I think she was because I think she opened it and she was sitting in her chair, like in like the library section of their house.
Yeah,
And I'm like, my girl's reading. She's
of
reading her
course.
romance novels,
Mm-hmm.
like we all are. Nesta's like, what the fuck are you doing here? Give me back the truth teller because remember, Bryce also took the truth teller
Yeah, yeah,
when
okay. We
she
didn't even talk
dipped.
about that. When she dipped, she was like, I'm out of here. I took this power and I'm taking your knife. Bye.
Bye. That was what we're left off with. But so Bryce was just asking her, I really need that mask that you used. And Nesta was, no, like, leave. What the fuck? What's happening? And then Bryce was like, look, these are my parents. I will trade you the mask and you can keep them so you know I'm going to come back for them.
Mm-hmm.
And Nessa was kind of, what? What's going on? And Bryce explains to her the Asteri, they attacked the human portion of my city and a bunch of children were killed. And that's when Nessa was, okay,
Yeah.
All right.
She's like, all right, all right,
All right,
I'll
because
give you the mask.
Nesta has a soft spot for humans because she was a human for
Hmm.
a lot of the time, and then she got forced being a fucking fae. But so she agrees to give her the mask, and Bryce makes her parents go in this fucking portal, and like Hunt and her are both on it. Hunt lasses them with his power, and they're forced to go into Prithian, and that's kind of where
Yeah.
we're left off with. But now Bryce has the fucking mask from the Dread Trove, which is important because it comes into play for a lot of the rest of this book.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it has a huge part in the final way that she's able to basically save the day. And it's kind of badass that her and Nesta are two people that can wield it.
I mean,
Definitely
Hunt
some
does
foreshadowing
too.
going there. That is such a good point. Like Hunt does put it on and he's
He does put it
fine.
on. But
I
I
don't know
will
if that's a
say,
hell thing.
well, I will say when Bryce was describing like what happened to Hunt, she was like, "You were made," and made was capitalized.
Hmm.
And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So maybe he's able to put on the mask and take it off because he is a made person. His powers are made too. Bryce is obviously able to because she has a starborn power, but
You know
yeah,
that
like a what's up?
they do say why he's able to wield it. I almost forgot about
What
that.
they did, what they said.
Yeah, literally it was because they had fucked. And when they had sex, he took some
Right,
of her.
because he takes his power. They take each other's
He
power
took
when
so
they
he
have
took yeah,
sex.
so he took some of her power from her. So that's why he was
Y'all,
able to wield it for such a short period of time. That
the
just came back
way
to me.
I did, that is so true. And I will say there wasn't that much smut in this book, but
Yeah, it wasn't.
I wasn't upset about it because honestly, it didn't even need it.
Yeah, I would have read the whole book
And
without a single smut scene.
even like the smuttier, spicier scenes really weren't even that graphic compared to other books, but I honestly, I appreciated it.
Yeah, compared to Silver Flames, they ain't shit.
Silver Flames was like 25%.
Oh my God.
I
Yeah.
loved it. But anyway,
Yeah, no, they were good scenes. They were solid. They added to the story, but it was not the main focus. And I was totally okay with that. Like I said, I would have been fine if this book didn't have any smut at all because the story was so important and it was all happening. So much was going on. So, but I wasn't mad at the ones that we got. They weren't cringy or like put in for no reason, in my opinion. We got our classic SJM night before the battle. Doesn't matter who can
literally,
hear us
we might
situation.
die. We might as well have
We've had to,
sex.
we gotta have sex. So yeah, we did get that moment. I was like, oh, this is giving me Akawar vibes. But yeah, that was hilarious. But yeah, I did forget about that little tidbit of
That's so
information
funny. I
until you
forgot about it
started talking until
too.
you started talking, and I was like, oh no, now I remember why he was able to wield the mask.
Makes sense. No,
It
it's coming
does.
together.
It's
Oh,
it's all coming together. But yeah, so we got to see the Akatar homies again, which made us both happy because we were not gonna be happy if it had just ended where
yeah.
it ended in part one. And then, yeah, I guess pretty much from here, it's just the huge final battle that we need to talk about. All the stuff that like went down during that. We learned a lot. I fucking loved getting to see Bryce take out, I think it was Polaris. But I will say, as much as I loved that scene of her using Truth Teller and the Star Sword to take her out, I was actually kind of pissed at her at that point because it was just another instance of an Aelin type moment where it's like, girl, you are too caught up in the freaking moment. You're not following the plan. She almost died at that part. If Hunt hadn't intervened and thrown his lightning in to speed up the process of the black hole, she'd have died. And they wouldn't have been able to save the rest of the planet because, what was going on the inside. They were supposed to go get the core or whatever. And she was like, I have to kill an Asteri. And I was like, girl, as badass as that was, follow the plan and stop not telling Hunt what you're about to do. You
No,
got lucky.
seriously.
You got
It's
lucky.
it is giving Aelin. It's giving Aelin. They
Yeah.
both aren't the best with communicating their plans, but it's okay.
God.
It
And it's
worked
like,
out.
I love Hunt and Bryce's connection so much.
Yeah.
Every time she talks to him and it's just like she looked at him with love in her eyes and
Hmm.
he called her she calls him honey. They're my favorite couple. They've had miscommunications in other books before, but never anything this book. There was a few times in this book where I was like, even though Bryce is a fave of mine, I was just like, girl, you're not in the right. You got to talk to him. And especially you have to be understanding of what he went through while you were in
Right,
Prithian.
because
Like,
he was not really wanting to go through with all of this, but She was, but if I don't do anything, then I'm as bad as like the Asterias. I'm just sitting here not doing anything. And he's just, a lot of my life, I've been stuck in the Asteria dungeons. Also, just got out of the Asteria dungeons.
Literally, I had to sit there and watch while my homie literally ate your brother's hand off. I'm
Literally.
not okay. And I just was like, and I got it. I get both perspectives. It's
Me
like Bryce
too.
is like, we have to do this. And Hunt's like, okay, but can you talk to me and at least try to understand where I'm coming from? But yeah, that was a moment where I was like, Bryce, stick to the fucking plan.
Bryce,
Like,
get it
Bryce.
together. No,
But
for
she came through in
real.
the end. She came
She
through in
came
the
through.
end.
She
But
came through.
she almost had to give up her own life to do it. We have to talk about the scene that happens 2 seconds earlier with Rune and Lydia.
My man, Rune,
What were you
makes a
thinking?
decision
Bad
to shoot.
decisions.
He just shoots Lydia in the leg so that she can't. Okay, so Paul, we learn Pollux has her sons. He kidnapped them from the depth charger, the Ocean Queen ship.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, we have to go save them. But Rude's like, you can't go where Pollux is. It's going to be a trap. And she's like, you can't stop me. These are my kids. So he's like, okay. And he fucking shoots her in the leg.
Oh my God, that part. I was
I was
like,
Rune. I love you so
no.
much. But
And I get why he did it. I really do. Lydia was rushing into the situation without thinking, kind of like I just talked about Bryce doing. But shooting her when all this
yeah.
shit is going down, shooting her in the leg. I know she's Fae, and so well, she's not Fae. She is Fae because the shifters are Fae. They just have had their ears bred out of them. So I know she's Fae, so she's gonna heal quickly or whatever. And he was, I know a lot about, you know, the military. I made sure I didn't shoot her in an artery. But like, bro, like, come on. And then she was like, I'll never forgive you for this. And I was like, no, you guys were just fucking having such a cute relationship. But
It's fine. They forgive each
it
other.
all works
But
out. It all works out. But yeah,
no,
because
I
Tharian's
definitely,
dumbass shows up at the right time. Sorry.
he does. But no, I definitely was like, okay, this is definitely his very morally gray moment, but I still love him. It's okay.
Yeah.
I'll get
Yeah. Oh
past it.
yeah.
I got past it. I got past it.
I already breezed past it because it
Me
ended up
too.
like, honestly, it's so messed up because it's like, he should have never done that. He should have never done that. But him doing that really made shit go down in a different way because if he
Hmm.
hadn't shot her, she would not have been in that hallway to intercept Tharian and get the dose of the serum that
Right,
Hypatia
because
made.
she takes the serum and this bitch, it's giving me what I needed from Aelin in Kingdom of Ash.
100%.
I
She's
needed this.
like,
She was literally the way that she was when she used to meet Rune in the Mind Bridge is how she actually is. She's just a ball of fucking
she's just like
fire.
literally a walking fire woman. And Therian just looks at her and is like, what are you? She's an old bloodline. And that was the first instance that we should have known that Aelin had entered the chat. And then when she revealed that Bran's full name is Brannon, that was when we were like, oh shit, okay, confirmed. Aelin's bloodline, 1000%. Like 100,000%.
And then she gets to kill Pollux.
Oh, even
So
though,
deserved.
even
He,
though I will say,
I wish
I
I wish he died in a very terrible, torturous way.
yeah, he deserved to get fucking
But at
tortured.
least he still died.
He died, and she did it. She did it. She was like, "You
She
fucked
should
up
have.
when you touched my sons," and I was like,
Period. Dude, fuck Pollux. Dude, I hate this man.
he might be one of my least favorite characters in all of Sarah J. Maas's theory series. He's definitely
I
in
feel
the
that.
bottom five.
I
He's
hate him.
definitely in the bottom five. More worse than Erewhon. Probably worse
Different
than
levels,
Maze.
though, of villains. There's villains and there's creepy villains. There's Arabin,
Yeah,
uh-uh,
yeah.
Pollux,
Mm-mm. I'm
other
not here for it.
people.
Ianthe, fucking
I am.
Ianthe. There's some creepy one. The King of Hybern. Even though he is weird because he wanted to be a big bad villain like Erewhon and Maeve and them, but he didn't quite make the cut. You bitch, Elaine killed you. Okay, like I know Nesta did the finishing blow, but like Elaine
Yeah,
snuck up on your ass and killed you. Like if
Elaine.
Elaine is the one who took you out,
Elaine.
you are not a badass. Okay. 100% not a badass in my book. Just saying. Just saying. But okay. So we talked about
Okay.
the Lydia Rune situation. Oh, and then also at that point, after Lydia has her kick-ass moment, we get to see what Rune is like when his full power is unleashed.
Yes. And okay. I will say one thing really quick about this book that was kind of disappointment. We didn't really get a full-on, I guess, explanation of why he looks like Rysand. I get they
Oh yeah.
have an ancestor who is the same because we did learn that like Rysand does come from Thea and Celine's line, whatever, why they look alike. But he does have like very similar powers. We learned that he has healing powers.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
sounds familiar. I really hope we
Yeah.
get to know more about that because that is one thing that I was a little bit disappointed about.
So I did want to just interject that part right there because that does technically happen before, and then we get to cut over to the whole Asteria scene. This is like the big final scene with Bryce and the Asteria where she really like her and Hunt take it to the fucking brink. She is teleporting them all over the place, trying to avoid Rigelus. Hunt is throwing his lightning at the first core, trying to break through so he can get access to it to actually attack it. Bryce is teleporting so much. She's used so much power at this point. She's literally bleeding out of her nose. She's slowing down. Rigelus is able to hit her. She can't teleport anymore. And then right as like Hunt's like, I just need to hit it one more time, just one more time. Oh yeah, it's important to say too that Ethan has gotten this bullet to her at this point.
Hmm.
And so she's got the bullet. She knows she's got the Godslayer rifle. Like she knows what she's got to do. And she goes to shoot the core. And then Rigelus is like, by the way, if you blow up that core, you literally are going to kill every single person on the planet. And she's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're a liar. I don't believe anything you have to say. And he's like, no, for real. We basically made it a kill switch that if you destroy that core, you will not only kill us, but this entire planet is going to get sucked into a void. So you thought it was bad that we killed those people and those children on Asphodel Meadows. You're about to kill everybody if you do that. And so in the last minute, little like Bryce actually being smart but also willing to sacrifice herself when nobody else wanted her to. Nobody wanted that for her. She like goes straight in, she blows up the reactor and then creates a portal with the horn on her back, and basically instead of a portal that opens up to another world, she opens up a portal to a black hole, and they're able to go through it, and she takes her and all the Asteri with her, and there's this tiny little hole open that left into the Midgard or whatever, and all the other Asteri are kind of floating off ahead of her and Rigelus. And then at some point, Rigelus got a hold of her, and she was able to suck his power into her, which is interesting because we knew she's a conduit, but that whole part was, I don't know, it was badass. But I was like, when I reread that, I'm going to be really trying to pay attention to what was going on because that was like very interesting. Like, what is the Asteri's power exactly? I know that
Right.
it's like Starlight, but different, but not like her Starlight. I don't
Hmm.
know. But anyway, so a lot is going on at this scene, but basically Hunt jumps through the portal to try in a last ditch effort to try to save her. That's when he puts the mask on, and because he still has a little bit of her power, he's able to wear it, and he is able to get her. This I know you loved this part, but right before he jumps through the portal, Shahar shows up
Oh my
in one of the
gosh.
mech suits.
Yes, because Bryce was able to use the mask to basically resurrect the wings from all the fallen rebel soldiers, and they got into the mech suit. So one of the wings was Shahar's, and this bitch shows up. She shows up. I mean, it's not really her, but like it is her. It's her soul. It's like her
Yeah.
essence. She shows up and she basically is just like, I got this, Hunt. This is your girl. This is my final thing that I can do for you. Which, oh my God, y'all, this scene had me sobbing.
Yeah, it was so cute. And
Oh my God, I can't. This scene.
Hunt takes her mech suit. He gets in her mech suit. He goes through the portal. She's able basically to push Rigelus and then farther away. Hunt's able to get Bryce, and then he
Right.
comes back. But at this point, Bryce has been without air for too long, and she's just dead. She's just straight
She's
up dead,
dead.
which I got something to say about that, but we could get to the sweet part
Well,
first.
yes. So
We can get to the sweet part first. So
so
he gets her back through the portal. Everybody shows up. Every single person. Tharian, Lydia, Rune, Adis, Apollyon, every single person she's ever helped, every single person who's ever had her
they're
back
like really
shows up
helping
and they're
hold
holding the
the
portal
portal.
open.
Oh
They're
my
holding the
God.
portal open so she could get back through. And then when she gets back through, she's dead. And
Yeah,
so,
my
oh,
girl, my girl Jessica. She shows up out of
oh.
fucking nowhere, I will say. But she shows up. She all of a sudden is
Yeah.
there. And she's just Hypaxia is trying to figure out what she can do because she's like, I'm a necromancer, like maybe I can do something, blah blah blah. But there's not really anything she can do.
Basically, what happens is that Jezebel makes a trade. So, because Hypaxia is now the queen of the Bone Quarter, she's able to basically deal in deaths or whatever. She trades Jezebel's life for Bryce's life. So, they go to this point basically where Jezebel enters into whatever you want to call it, heaven, if you want to call it the afterlife, whatever you want to call it. She enters there and Bryce is there, obviously. And she shows up and she tells Bryce, like, look, I'm trading myself for you. Go live, be happy. Your angel's waiting for you. I've lived a long life. I was always supposed to have a human existence. I'm ready to let go. I'm not afraid. And then Bryce looks over and she sees like the pack of devils. She sees Danica, Connor, Thorn. She sees all of them. They all, like, even though we thought that the second light was their final death or whatever, we learned that that isn't the final death, that, there's more after that, and that they're all in a better place, a happy place, and that they're all okay. And it's just such a sweet fucking scene.
Dude,
Like, I
that
was
scene, I was
bawling.
audibly crying. And I mean, I was really crying during this whole scene, but the thing that the person that really got me was when the book was like, and on Danica's shoulder was Lahaba.
Yes. Oh my
I
God,
can't.
Lahaba. Yes.
I
Because
can't.
we were so worried about her when they went to visit the
Right.
Bone Quarter in the second book. They asked about her and they were, nobody's here by that name. And we were so worried that she just didn't make it, but really she went
She
straight
did.
to heaven, basically.
She's with
Oh,
Danica.
she's
And
with Danica.
it was so sweet. And then, of course, Danica was lighted up Bryce.
Oh, I loved it.
Dude,
I'm
that
not gonna
scene.
lie.
Oh, I'm like crying right now. But that
Yeah.
scene, I was ugly crying, guys.
Yeah, I was literally bawling at that part.
I
I
have
won't
a
lie.
video. I'm never gonna show it, but I have a video of it.
Yeah, it was emotional. It was really good. Oh, the one thing that I wanted to say that I didn't say earlier was like literally what we talked about in a previous episode, which was kind of like I'm so torn because it was such a good scene and I would never ever ever want anything to happen to Bryce. She's one of my favorites, but I just am like, can somebody stay dead?
No, for real, especially in
Can
this book, the way
can
that so
one
many
person stay
people,
dead?
right, so many people were resurrected. Lydia was resurrected, the Harpy was resurrected, and in the past, there's more people, but in past
Yeah.
books too, it's especially in Aquawar, like Amber and Rysand both
Yeah.
die. Like Feyre dies too, and they're
Yeah.
able to be resurrected. I'm just like, okay. That's why when Bryce died, I wasn't really concerned because I'm like, there's no way she's gonna stay dead. This is Sarah J. Maas. She brings back people. And
Yeah.
I do appreciate very emotional deaths because I need to know that people can actually die in these series.
Yeah. We did talk about it a lot in the last episode, so I don't want to harp on it, but like, yeah, that part didn't feel that I was bawling because of the way that it happened. Jezebel sacrificing herself. And
It
Jezebel
was
is a
super cute.
death. Jezebel is a death and it is sad, but it like Jezebel was less of a heart wrenching death to me than even Lahaba was because they both sacrificed themselves and they both were key players, but it was kind of Jezebel had been here for a long time. Jezebel was a willing sacrifice. Lahaba was willing too, but she did it to save, I don't know, because Jezebel also did it to save Bryce's life. But there had just been a few times in this book earlier where Jezebel had kind of already hinted at the fact that she had overlived her life and was kind of ready to move on,
Hmm.
that she wasn't happy with Apollyon's curse. It's not like she wanted to be here. So I'm not saying that it wasn't a sacrifice, but it definitely just wasn't. I mean, I don't know. It was hard hitting. I was bawling. I was crying. It was so sweet knowing that all of them are basically in a better place and that Bryce and everybody, Bryce, Ethan, all of them can go on knowing that these people are, they're never really gone and they're okay. But definitely just another example of like, okay, Lydia straight up died and then was alive 2 chapters later. And then the same thing with Bryce. I wasn't really worried about either of them because I was like, they're too big of players in the whole grand scheme of things to die like that. So I don't know, but that's also such a tough conversation to have because I would be bawling if one of them actually did die. So
I mean, same, but
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I
I would
mean,
still be not okay if
I
Bryce had actually died.
I really liked the ending though. I think the ending was cute. And then
Yeah.
one more thing to add is Bryce is able to open the portal back to Prithian,
Hmm.
and she gets her parents back, and her parents are like seem to be getting really along with everyone in
Yeah.
Akatar. She finds them eating chocolate cake with
Yeah.
Nessa and
Happy
Cassian, which is such a nod to Silver Flames because Nessa really likes to order cakes
loves
from the
chocolate
house.
cake. Yeah, she loves chocolate cake.
And Ember was like Rysand and Randall really bonded over their being fathers and stuff. And she ends up giving Nesta the mask and Truth Teller and the Star Sword. And she's like, there's a reason why you ended up having that bargain tattoo of the star on your back. Go find out
Hmm.
why. And that's really what we're fucking left with. I was like,
Yeah. Big pickup for
oh,
Akatar 6, 100%.
yeah. And also, I will say, Nesta did say alpha holes.
Yeah, that was funny. That was
I
funny.
loved it. I loved it.
Ember had to
It
have
was
dropped that
cute.
one in conversation for her
Yeah,
to,
for
yeah, like,
sure.
well, Bryce walks through the portal and says it, I think too. So she was like, oh, I like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it was
cute.
it was cute, but
I
yeah,
didn't get to see Cassian wield a gun, but if that day ever
maybe in the
comes,
future.
that day ever comes, I'll die.
Oh,
But
I will die too.
but yeah, overall, it was so good. The vibes were good. Obviously, a lot was going on. A lot of side characters got their time
Hmm.
to shine. But so if you would say at the end, like of everything from who's still around and going forward, who were your favorite characters?
Well, obviously Nesta.
Well, to be fair, I'm talking about Crescent City, but
Okay,
okay,
okay, okay.
that's
I
fair.
mean, okay, yes, but anyway, in Crescent City, I would say my favorite characters from this book, especially, is definitely Rune and Lydia.
Yeah, they had such good
I'm
shows.
trying
Like,
to see like how many can I choose? I'm trying to keep it to three. Brune, Lydia, and I would say, I mean, I would probably say Bryce. I know it's probably like a basic answer, but I really
yeah,
liked them. I will give a shout out to Baxian's like story and stuff. Like I really appreciate him being in there. But
yeah.
yeah.
It's tough for me. I told you it. I guess if I had to do like, it's so tough because it's almost like I'm looking at them as a pair. So it's Hunt and Bryce, obviously, Lydia and Rune, and then Baxian. Those are my top people. I almost count them as one entity because like they're both like mated. They're obviously like super like
Right.
they're gonna be like, I almost feel like I mean, I guess you can like one without liking the other, but they kind of go hand in hand. And then Baxian was my favorite like come through character other than them. And then I don't know, technically this isn't Crescent City, but if you want to throw a quick little spoiler warning in here, there may be a spoiler for the bonus chapters coming here. So if you haven't read all of the bonus chapters, maybe skip ahead a minute or two. But who are your least favorite characters after this whole debacle?
I'm not gonna include the villains in this book in this, but I will say my least favorite characters as of now. And I don't want to say I hate these people. I don't. They're just kind of not doing it for me. Um, Raisan, I'm
Tears.
sorry.
I'm crying.
We're gonna get more about that in the bonus chapter episode.
Yeah.
I do have a lot to say about it. I would probably say Raisan. I want to say Therian, unfortunately. I do really like him, but as for now, he's just not my favorite. I don't know. I don't know who
Yeah.
else really. It's just they're just
Two
I
is
don't
good.
know. Yeah.
For me, I would say the Viper Queen, but I know you're not kind of going for villains, and she's clearly a villain. Even though I
Right.
don't think she was clearly a villain until this book, in my opinion. I think other than that, she's
You were
just kind of
unsure.
been kind of what is going on, because there was a point at this book where I thought she might actually be helping them. And then I will say Sigrid, not a big fan of hers, not really
That's
sure how
fair.
she's going to come back into play, but
Yeah.
she ended up being not who I thought she was going to be. Very much not like Danica at all. So definitely she's, for somebody who I think is going to come back up, she's one of my least favorites. And then Ariadne also. I think that there's a lot that is going to happen with her, and she's going to have kind of a coming of age kind of story in one of these next books. But right now, she's kind of on my shit list. She has done a lot of things where she fucked them over in the last book. She fucked them over in this book. And she's kind of a character who, once again, I thought I was going to really like when she first got brought into the storyline, but she's kind of shown herself not to be the best of people. So and I mean, yeah, who's to say if I get trapped in a ring for 400 years and owned by some asshole who uses me, as he pleases, I might have very distrustful, relationship with people and act the same way. But as of right now, she's kind of bottom of my list. So, but I wouldn't say she's a villain. So,
Right. I don't know. It's kind of hard because I don't hate the people that are on my least favorite. They're just, I don't know. They're just not really
they're your least favorite,
doing
not your.
it for me right now. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Therian will definitely have a great book. I'm excited to read it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. He's just kind of there right now for
Until
me.
Yeah, until Rhysand does like something heinous, he can't be in my least favorites.
That's okay. I
But
know you love
I do,
him. It's
yeah,
okay.
love him. He just can't be. I'm not happy with him. I've said it several times. I've said it several times. He has kind of been fucking up a little bit lately, but he can't go into my least favorites. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
But okay, so awesome. And then I guess we kind of talked on it a little bit, but like where we think things are going. I definitely think that the next book is going to have a major focus on some of the side characters from this book. I think Rune and Lydia are going to have a big part in the next book. I think that Tharian and Ariadne are going to have a big part in the next book. And then I think that Ethan and Perry might end up having a big part in the next book. So very interested to see like their story goes. I do think Bryce and Hunt are going to be present, but I just think they're going to be on the back burner.
Right. That makes sense.
All right. So overall, I would say that we really enjoyed this book. It was a fun read. We definitely encourage you guys to check it out, especially if you've enjoyed the other two Crescent City books. You
Hmm.
will like this book. By no means is it perfect, but it was a fun time and a great journey. And we hope you guys enjoyed listening to us talk about it and just kind of give our initial impressions and our initial likes and dislikes and all of that. We will be releasing an episode this Tuesday on our normal schedule. It will be about the bonus chapters review and discussion. So if you are interested in what happens in them, or you've read them all and you want to hear us talk about them, check out our video on Tuesday. And then after that, we will be doing kind of like a foreshadowing CC3 theories video. So if you guys have anything you want to add to that, any opinions you want us to talk about or anything like that, please email them to us at our email. It will be in the description, or DM us on Instagram. We would love to hear from you and kind of add that in. We do have a Patreon that we plan on launching soon, so keep your eyes out for that. And as always, please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you're listening on a podcast app, please rate and review us. It really, really helps. And we love to hear your opinions. So don't be afraid to write in and talk to us and share us with your other bookish friends. We really want to grow this community, and we genuinely enjoy having these discussions with you guys. So as always, we want to go ahead and leave you guys on a quote. This is from CC3, and I just want to say, yes, it took their power, but what is eternal, what is made of love, that can never be destroyed.